This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we are fortunate tonight to have as our guest one of the outstanding freshman senators in the state Senate who represents a good portion of the river region, Senator Clyde Chambliss from Autauga and Elmore counties and part of Coosa County. But Clyde has hit the ground running. He is a very popular senator over there in Prattville and Autauga County, and we thank him for taking time out of his busy schedule to come in during the session and give us an update on the legislative process and legislative session and how it affects the folks in his district of Autauga and Elmore County. Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me today.
I appreciate it. Y'all know Clyde is he's not a lawyer like a lot of people, lawyer educators used to be. Clyde is an engineer. He's smarter than most of those state senators up there. He's actually got a professional degree in engineering. I sometimes want to call him an accountant. I don't know why I have him down as an accountant, but he's always been a professional person. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something. People think of Elmore and Autauga County as being sort of new counties and new because of the population growth. But there's some of y'all who've had roots there a long, long time, and you've got the deepest roots in Autauga County I've seen in a long time. There was somebody I was talking to today that had Autauga County, was born and raised in Autauga County. But tell our viewers how long your family's been around that area that you represent. Now you represent all of Autauga.
Yes, sir.
And most of Elmore.
Most of Elmore.
And you get Coosa.
All of Coosa.
You get all of Coosa County.
Sir.
But your family's been there for generations.
That's
Tell
right.
our folks about that.
That's right. My earliest forefather came to Autauga County back in the 1830s. So I'm a sixth generation Autauga Countian, and we've been there ever since. We actually were there before Prattville was started.
When did Prattville start?
1840s. So we were there a little bit before
what about
that.
Daniel Pratt? When was he there?
In the 1840s.
So your family was there for Daniel Pratt?
Yeah, we were just a little bit north of Prattville in the Bridge Creek area.
Still in Autauga County, though?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just 3 or 4 miles north of the current Prattville.
Yeah.
But my mom's side of the family, her history is through Coosa and Elmore counties.
What was her maiden name?
Wingard. And they were all the way up into Shelby County, into Columbiana. They were on both sides of the river.
You may be kin to Bentley. Y'all may be kin to each other.
I think there's probably some distant relation
I bet you there is.
Yeah.
You know, Alabama's a big old front porch, aren't we?
It is.
So
really
has
is.
Bentley ever talked to you about that?
We've mentioned it in passing, but we've never had time to sit and try to figure it out. But my mom and her sister are real interested in the genealogies, and they're really doing a lot of research on that. It's very, very fascinating.
Clyde, you were on the Autauga County Commission before you came to the Senate, though, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was 3 terms on the Autauga County Commission. 4-year terms.
4-year term,
Yes,
12 years. And one of your ancestors was on the Autauga County Commission, wasn't
Yes,
it?
sir. It was, I believe it was an uncle. We called him Mr. Dan. Uncle
he a
to my dad.
Chambliss?
Yes, sir. He was 7 terms on the Autauga County Commission.
7 terms?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you follow him? Or was
No,
there a gap?
there was a pretty big gap. I actually don't remember him. I was too young when he passed away. But when I was campaigning the first time in 1996 for county commission, a lot of the older folks would say, "Are you related to Mr. Dan?" And I was able to tell that story, and that was a big help to me getting started.
Hey, Clyde, what about what area of Autauga County did you represent in the county commission?
I was pretty much the southeastern part, the east side of Prattville.
East side of Prattville. Boy, things have changed a lot since you were a little boy, weren't they?
Wow.
Well, your family was in Prattville, not in the country.
That's correct.
But now, what was the population of Prattville? What are you, about 50?
I am 46.
46.
I'll be 47
You're
this
a
year.
young man. Good gosh, 46 years old. What that means you were born in what year?
69.
Good gosh almighty, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
You only 46 years
That's why it's so interesting for me to read your book, because I've heard a lot of these stories with my family, and they've all been around. And
they remember it, don't they?
They do. They do. My dad has really enjoyed it, actually.
Hey, Clyde, so when you first ran, you got a long time ahead of you in the state city. You ought to stay there a long time because it makes a difference. You know, you and I were talking before the show. I told you that I sat by Jimmy Holly, who I think is one of the best legislators this state's ever seen. he represented Coffee County in the House for 25 or so years, and then he's now our state senator. And I sat by Holly for 4 terms in the House. We were seatmates because Coffee and Pike were sort of similar counties, and he and I were the only ones from our county. You know, we had one House seat. Jack Venable sat by us. They had the Tallahassee Tribune.
I remember.
See, Jack had the Tallahassee Tribune, and Seth Hammett sat by us. It was me and Seth from Covington, Jack from Tallahassee, and Holly from Coffee. And Holly is now your seatmate.
He is.
Isn't he helpful?
He is so helpful. I really just appreciate his wisdom, his direction, his guidance. And, you know, last year, of course, I was a freshman, and I'd ask him a lot of questions. And one day I leaned over and I said, "No, Senator Holly, you're going to get tired of asking me asking you all these questions." He said, "No, son. All of us were there at one time. All of us have to learn. You ask me any question, anytime, and I'll give you the straight answer." And I really appreciate that. It's been a big help to me.
You know, Clyde, I have to confess this, and you may do it. I don't know of anybody who has the reading skills to read that fast, to actually read every word of a bill. Of every bill we vote on in the legislature that I voted on the long time I was in the House and you voted in the Senate. But I sat by Holly. I remember this particular day, and I never will forget as long as I live. It's actually, this example's in my book. I talk about Holly. I gave Holly a chapter in the book, and I gave Jabbo Wagner one. They're 2 of my favorite guys. You, sir, were 2 of my favorite legislators.
They're 2 of my favorite as well.
They're great guys.
They are.
They're just as humble and nice as they can be, and they've got a lot of history.
They do. They've been there a long time. They've seen a lot of change over the years.
I talked to old Jabbo today. He said he's going to run again. I'm so glad.
I
said,
Jabbo,
Jabbo, no way.
at all.
I don't know why you wouldn't. Jabbo said he's 79 years old, but he said he walks around the Capitol all day and, you know, walked about 3 points. He had on his little clock, he had 3.8 miles.
Oh, yeah.
But back to that Holly story, this is in the book. And I've got to confess, I knew kind of what was in bills because you know you get a synopsis, and so you know what you're voting on most of the time. But we had a pretty lengthy calendar in the House that day. When other legislators, you and I live in close proximity to Montgomery, you can go home every night. I could go home to Troy when I was in the House, only a 40-minute drive. I didn't never mind it. You've only got like a 20-minute drive from your house, so you're lucky to be here. Wouldn't you hate to be from Huntsville to Mobile?
Well, it's difficult for
It'd
those
be a
guys.
different thing, but most of them go to hotels and have dinner together or something. Holly went back to his hotel room and read the doggone bills every night. He was so well versed, and I'm sitting there, and we had a lengthy calendar, and I noticed a bill about 6 bills down. I said, "Holly, what is that bill down there, the 6 bills down?" And I said, without missing a beat, he said, "That's about this, this, and this. It's a trial lawyer bill. You ain't gonna be for it," because he knew I was real pro-business. He'd already read every detail of the bill, which was gonna tell me how I probably ought to vote. You know, and so it was the doggone thing. But
well, maybe that's why they put me beside him, because I tend to do those type things, and I really appreciate, just like you say, there's something I don't understand coming down, I'll ask him, and he always has the answer.
He's read it. He's a great guy. I just saw him and Mary leaving the Capitol a while ago. Clyde, you got all daughters, don't you?
Three daughters.
3 girls.
Yes,
now, how old are they?
They're 19, 17, and 15.
Where are they located now?
Well, Kristen, our oldest, she has finished up her first semester at the University of Alabama and into her second. Lauren is a high school junior, and Madison is a freshman in high school.
High School?
Yes, sir.
Now, is your wife from Watauga County?
No, she's not. She grew up in the Dadeville area.
Close by, though.
That's right. Her mom's from Tallapoosa County and Dad from Lee County.
Clyde, what do you think? I mean, we've talked about this over the course of time. You know, I wrote this in my column a week or 2 ago that the session started on Groundhog Day, and I made an allusion to the old Bill Murray movie about Groundhog Day, where he wakes up and it's the same day again at Groundhog Day. But it seems like we have this perennial problem with the general fund, and you're probably more sympathetic than most senators because you have such a rich number of state employees probably in your district. You know, I don't know what the answer to the dilemma is. You know, Bentley tried to do something last year and it was rejected. I don't know what the. Tell me what your. When is this is a multiple question. when we start getting, we're going to get about $100 million from the BP money, aren't we? About 90 or 100 million interest a year. When does it kick in?
We should receive the first 50 million of that
it's
this
just
year.
50.
And then 53 million per year.
That's all
thereafter.
we're going to get is 50. We're going to say that's all you're going to get, but that's not going to solve the problem.
No, it's not. Our problems are in the 150 to 200 million range, and just like you mentioned, it's the same problem we had last year. So it's a new day, but we have the same issues. But we'll keep working at it. I expect things to get really exciting in the legislature this session. Very difficult. But and I asked to be on the general fund, and that's the reason that I came to Montgomery, is to try to find a solution to the general fund problem. In my opinion, that recurring problem leads to instability and is hindering the economic growth of our state. If a business is looking at Alabama versus a surrounding state, and they don't know what's going to happen and they're unsure, well, they're going to go to where it's stable. We have got to fix the general fund problem and lead to that stability. And it's really not an easy solution, but it looks like it's going to have to be out of current revenues from, all the other senators from around the state. I respect them, but they don't have the same perspective that I do and what's going on around Montgomery and the state employees and the state services. But that's why we have 35 of us, and I balance them, they balance me, and we just have to continue debating until we come to a consensus.
Clyde, do y'all have a what I would call a river region caucus like the Jefferson County caucus does? Do you and Brubaker and Ross and who else has the river region? It'd be the three of y'all, wouldn't it? In the river region, that would be senators that come in this area, this four county area.
Right.
It's just you and Quentin and Dick Brubaker.
Hank Sanders has some to the west of us here.
Right, but not much.
Not much. We don't have an official type.
Do y'all
caucus
sit down
like
and
that,
visit about what's good for the river region?
We talk quite a bit and work through issues, and I really enjoy both of those senators and getting to know them. They both bring a lot of history and knowledge to the table as well. And I was visiting with Senator Ross on the floor today and talking about several issues and trying to figure out what it is that we need to do to solve these problems. So I really enjoy visiting with them and talking, and we bring different perspectives to the table. We really do.
Well, you got different districts. You got different
constituencies.
So it's good y'all talk. I never have seen the acrimony among the river region legislators like you see in Jefferson County. I mean, that rift, and what people don't realize is that our Constitution is so archaic that local issues arrive in the legislature. Well, we used to sit there in the House, and I know y'all do in the Senate. I guess you just call a blanche vote. Half your days spent voting on local bills?
I wouldn't say so far half, but there are times where it gets to that point. We did a lot of local legislation last year, and this year is a little bit lower, although I did have 3 local bills for Autauga that I introduced a couple of days ago. I've got one coming for Elmore, so that is a big part of our issues. And that's something that I didn't fully understand, and the general public probably don't, is I have to work with those guys, because one of those guys can veto my local legislation.
They sure can.
I can veto theirs.
You're not supposed to get involved in
right.
theirs.
So we've got to work together on those type issues, and if we have differences, or when we have differences, try to work those out before it gets to the floor.
You need to, and it seems like that Montgomery's worked pretty well together. I think at one time there was some friction about the growth of Pike Road before you got there. There were some things like Pike Road wants to do this and Montgomery wouldn't want to do it or something, but that day's gone now.
Well, it's very important for the growth of an area to continue, like the river region. If you ever do anything as a government to stifle that growth, getting that snowball rolling again is very, very difficult. So even if it's not growing in the exact spot that I want it to, I still want it to grow in hopes that down the road it'll shift to where I want it to grow. You can't let that momentum stop, even if it's not to your short-term advantage, looking for the long term.
Well, you've had a lot of growth in your Senate district in the last 2 decades. Remind me how many people is Senator. Y'all close to about 150,000 people.
144,000.
144,000. How many people are in Autauga County now?
55,000.
And Elmore's bigger than Autauga.
That's right. It's about 85,000, I believe.
I didn't know Elmore had 85,000.
It's very
so most of your district is. Coosa wouldn't have but 10,000 people with it.
About 11 and a half. And South Parton of Chilton has about that same 10,000 or so, and then I have 4,000 or 5,000 in Tallapoosa.
So you connect with Cam Ward then?
I do.
And when he comes into Shelby and Chilton?
We share Chilton.
And it's hard to think you come down. You know what's changed a lot with the growth of Elmore and Autauga, and you may know this. The 2nd Congressional District, which we're all a part of, or most of us are a part of, it used to be that it was either you were in Montgomery or Dothan were the 2 biggest places. Do you realize Elmore is the 2nd biggest county in that district now?
I hadn't thought about that, but
it's bigger than Dothan.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Oh, Elmore, if you're going to run for the Congress, it's best to be from Elmore or Montgomery or Autauga County in that area right there. You know?
There's a lot of growth. We're always 3rd, 4th, Autauga and Elmore, 3rd, 4th, 2nd, 1st, sometimes. And it's just a great place to live, and obviously that feeds from Montgomery. That's why we're dependent on them, and they're dependent back and forth. What's good for the region is good for all, and we need Montgomery to be healthy and strong and vibrant, and it makes us all a better place. You know,
you're not old enough to remember a whole lot, but you're talking about if you're 46, let's go back 30 years to 16 when you were a junior or sophomore at Prattville High School. You went to Prattville High School, didn't you?
I actually went to Grace Baptist, a Christian school.
Well, but you would say you're a junior in high school in Prattville.
Right.
And 30 years ago would be 96, 86?
86.
86. Well, how big was Prattville Ballpark then, and how big is it now?
I think it was in the 20,000 range.
It was 20 then, even.
18, somewhere in there.
It wasn't a small place then, though, was it?
It had grown quite a bit.
Already had grown,
it had. It was in the process, but when I was a child, it was much smaller than that. And it seems like everywhere we went, my dad knew everybody.
Yeah.
But it's a great place, and the thing that I like about it so much is we have the east part of Prattville that's growing and bustling, and then we have the older part of Prattville that's still kind of the way it was when I was a child.
It is.
Red Arrow Hardware downtown. I grew up. My dad had a shoe cobbling store in downtown Prattville for a while, and I was 6 or 8, and I'd go down there and I'd walk up and down every single aisle and just look and see what all was in there. It's fascinating to me.
There was a great article in the Montgomery Advertiser somewhere about Whit Moncrief's family. Had a clothing store or furniture store there in Prattville. He like you. His roots are there a long time. And Whit's quitting sort of early, isn't he?
Yeah, he's wrapping it up. He's got some health issues with his knee, and he's been involved a long time. So it's a well-deserved retirement, and I'd hope that he'd stay a little longer, but I understand needing to get out and enjoy retirement.
Tell him I asked about him.
I will.
Maybe he'll watch this show.
Absolutely.
But he's like you. He's an old Autauga County person. Yeah. That's who I was thinking about. Yeah. I was thinking about him when we were talking a while ago about the thing. Let me ask you this: an issue that affects the general fund. I thought the governors. I'm a friend of the governor's. I like him, but I thought he did try very diligently last year to raise new revenue for the general fund. You've got to applaud him for at least recognizing there's a little problem in the general fund. And he offered that $540 million tax proposal. But he pretty much has given up the ship this time. But he came with a lot of platitudes and offered a lot of things on the agenda in a pretty long speech the other night. Primarily that $800 million bond issue for new prisons. But that's kind of a vague solution. We're gonna pay for it with savings. How do you know those savings exist? Like I was told by other legislators, Clyde, that consolidation of law enforcement really hadn't saved a lot of money.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
and you in agreement with that?
That's my understanding, and that was done before I got there, so I don't know the intricacies. But on the prison deal, I'm going to look at it objectively, and I did take accounting in college, so I'll use that. But You know, there are some efficiencies that I see there. There's a lot of maintenance that has to go on in these old prisons.
Tutwiler's in your district, isn't it?
It's actually right across the line in Brubaker's district, but it affects a lot of my constituents.
Do you have any prisons in your district besides Tutwiler? Isn't Draper in there?
Yes, sir. They're again right across the line, all of them from my district.
But there'll be people be
right.
affected by it. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What do you?
That's fine. You know, when you're having to do all those, and it's not like maintenance on a house. These are heavy, detailed, high-cost maintenance items with the locks and security and all that. So if we can bring down that maintenance to a minimal amount and use the efficiencies of the new designs for jails, and we had this in Autauga County when I was on the county commission. Instead of a long linear layout, you have a pod and circular layout. So you can keep watch on more prisoners with the same amount of people. So if you combine those efficiencies, I think there is a possibility that what they're telling us is accurate and correct. But I'll have to see all the detailed numbers and go in there and dig and make sure that I understand and agree with them. And if we do, then I would be interested in moving forward, because we know that we have really some big problems with our jail, with our prisons, and we need to correct them. We did the same exact thing in Autauga County years ago when I was on the county commission. We joined with the city of Prattville, went from a linear to a pod style, and it's worked really, really well. So we'll look and see if that'll do the same thing on the state level.
Clyde, you know, and again, I'm going to preface this by telling you that I'm a fan of Robert Bentley. I like Governor Bentley, but I came to the legislature with a governor who was really hands-on governor, George Wallace. Now, if Wallace had offered that bond issue, for example, it wouldn't have been vague, you know, we need a new prison, we need a new prison, I want to pass an $800 million bond issue. The next day, or prior to him saying it, he would have had you down in his office or at the governor's mansion, and he'd sat down that portico out there, that porch, and he'd sat down and Clyde, now, this is how it's going to be paid for, and this is how it's going to affect your district. I assume that's been the criticism of the past governors, and Bentley being one of them, that they may throw out an idea, but they really don't get to the legislature and work you about it. I remember my first couple of years in the House, I had suffered more times with Wallace at the governor's mansion than I did at home. He would have you out at the governor's mansion, and he would say, well, now, Steve, we want to pass this bond issue for education, you know, and this is what it's going to do for your district. We're going to put a new building at Troy University, and we're going to have new students there. For example, have they told you whether your prisons are going to survive there or not? I mean, have they gone that far and talked to you about it?
Well, I have met with the commissioner, Colonel Dunn, and started talking about those details. They're really not that far along as to where they're going to site them and that sort of thing yet. And I understand that. They have to know if they're going to actually be able to do it or not. And if you get into siting before you actually know if you're going to do it or not, then that may actually lose you some votes. So they've got to work through it.
Well, I got to tell you, if I'm representing Elmore and Autauga County, I want to make sure Draper and Tutwiler are going to be put back where they were in my district. I ain't going to vote for it.
We've circled the wagons. We've already met, and we've talked to the commissioner and told him our interest and what we're expecting. And you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, the employees are already there. They already live there. So if you're going to move it away from the current employees, you need to have a pretty good reason, and I don't know that exists, but you also have to have utilities, you have to have health facilities such as hospital,
right.
You have to have access to mental health, you have to have communication. There's a lot of things that go into it that you need to have, but first and foremost are the people and those who are working in the prison.
Well, I just can't believe he'd throw it out there and not have more details about it. If I was legislator, I'd say, well, Governor, you want to pass this bond? Now, are they going to ask y'all to vote on it this session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe so. There's pros and cons. There's obviously different leadership styles, as you've already alluded to. Sometimes you want to go in and you want to force the things, and sometimes you need the things to come to you. So, you know, we'll see how it works out.
Well, like if I was representing Escambia County, I'm doggone if I want them to close my prison down there. You know, that'd be the first question I ask. Well, you know, are you going to I would assume you'd ask that question before you voted to tear down your prison.
Absolutely.
And put them back with. I remember one time, last time they built some new prison, Wallace was governor. You know, he was from Barber County, and they had this very exhaustive study about where they ought to put the prisons, you know, the new prisons, and it came back, the study says you definitely need to put them near urban areas because that's where most of the prisoners come from. They come from Jefferson or Madison or Mobile, and need to put the prisoners near their homes so their family can come see them. And Wallace said, well, you know, that sounds pretty good, but I think we're going to put those prisons in Barber County, if you don't mind. So they got 3, and the first thing old Billy Beasley said when they got ready to pass that bond issue, the first thing he said, well, I don't know about that changing that. Because you think about it being important to Elmore, as big as Elmore is, to have those 2 prisons. Think about those prisons in Barber. They ain't got 25,000 people in the whole county.
Very important.
You know, it'd be very important to them.
Those 300 or 400 jobs is a big deal, and there's 725 in Elmore County. So
is it 700 something?
725.
That's jobs. A lot of jobs.
It really is. It really is. So,
golly. That'd be the first question I ask, I believe.
Huge economic impact to Elmore County. So, again, we've already met as a group. We figured out what we need to do, where we're going. We're working hard to make sure the citizens of Elmore County are represented. We
only got about a minute left. Tell me about that Winston law. You got something going? Is that a local bill that you?
No, sir. It started locally because of a child abuse
in your district.
Yes, sir.
And Randall Houston's a DA on that thing.
That's right. And basically, if you are found guilty of aggravated child abuse, which is an elevated crime, for a child less than 6 years old, there's an elevated sentence to it. It goes to a Class A felony instead of Class B.
What was the story behind that thing? Somebody was abusive of the child?
Well, it was a mother and a stepfather, and it's just very, very unfortunate. And
they came from your area, though?
Yes, sir. So we hope to get that through.
You're the sponsor of it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, the session starts off in a hurry and it ends in a hurry, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Here we are about almost third way through the session.
That's right.
You think the budgets will pass on this time without a special session?
There is tremendous push for that to happen, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, last year the budget that we ended up in September was no better than the one we.
Same thing.
So let's just get it on through and be done and not come back and waste the taxpayers' money.
Well, old Tripp's changed hat. He's over there in your committee now, Ways and Means. I mean, General Fund Finance Taxation. So he and Arthur Orr just swapped hats.
They did, and that's some very interesting dynamics, and I think a very good move. It shakes things up, and we got to have a new solution to an old problem. So I'm in favor of that.
It's proper your own F&T because you come from an area that's important to you. Our time's up, Clyde. I appreciate you taking time to be on our show. Folks, our guest tonight has been State Senator Clyde Chambliss from Watauga and Elmore County, a long-time resident of Watauga County and a great state senator from y'all's area. We thank him for taking time to be on our program tonight. We thank you viewers for watching Alabama Politics. Hope you tune in again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Clyde. Thank you.